In today's episode, I'm going to show you the process of replacing a casement window and a brick opening. Before we pull these old windows, let me give you a couple tips on how to measure for your new windows. You know, when we've got a brick opening like this, we want to measure in a couple places, both horizontally and vertically. So take your tape and start with the center dimension. We're going to measure right across the center of these windows right here, and we're going to measure from brick to brick and get our dimensions. Then we're going to go down to another section and one more dimension at the top. Write all those dimensions down and pick the smallest of those three dimensions. Once you pick the smallest one, drop it by a ½ inch, and that's the width of the new window that you're going to order. Next, we want to do the same thing with the vertical. We're going to measure right in the center of this window from the brick sill to the wood trim above, and then we're going to do the same thing on the right and the left-hand side of this window. Again, take the smallest measurement and drop it by a ½ inch. Okay, time to pull this window. This is a vinyl window, so once we cut the caulk on the inside and the outside, remove the screws, this window is going to come out pretty easily. If this is a wood window, we might need to use a Sawzall, and if this was an aluminum window, especially one of those old single pane aluminum windows, we're probably going to need an angle grinder with a real thin blade. And we're going to do an angle grind right here at the frame where it meets the brick. It most likely has a nailing flange on it. And we want to be a little careful when we're using that not to cut too far into the original weather barrier. On this vintage house, we're probably talking about 15-pound tar paper back there, and we want to make sure that we can integrate the new window into that old flashing. Once the window's out, we're going to clean up the opening and prepare for the new windows. This is a good time to talk now about weather barriers. Remember, a window is only as waterproof as its install. In this case, we've got a one-story house with a 2-foot overhang. Really, this window is very well protected. But if we were on a 2-story house, let's say facing the weather, we might need to remove some brick to properly integrate this window to the weatherization. And we'd certainly want a good head flashing tucked underneath any existing tar paper. No matter what overhang you've got in the windows though, you want to put a really good sill pan in. I really am a big fan of DuPont's Flex Wrap for making sill pans on site. We're going to roll out the 6-inch variety here. We're going to flex it over the existing tar paper on the sills, and then we're going to wrap in some DuPont Straight Flash after that on the jambs. Try and get that on all the covering of wood and then covering that back over the tar paper. Really going to give this window a good waterproof install. The replacement windows here have pre-drilled holes in the frame to screw the window to the frame at the jambs. So what we do is we're going to square it in the opening, shim one side, then we're going to check for plumb and level. We're going to screw that one off, and then we're going to check the operation of the rest of the window and make sure that everything is nice and plumb and square. We're going to shim and screw the rest of the sides, again, double checking for square and plumb. Notice the shims are placed at the sill about every 6 inches to make sure we have good support, but we don't want to screw through the sill, only at the jambs. At this point, the window's looking awesome. We're nice and plumb in the opening. Everything's working well on the casement operation. It's time to air seal the window. You want to use a low expansion foam to air seal your windows and insulate them around all sides. I like DAP's 812 foam. This is a good elastic closed cell foam that has a little bit of joint movement in the future if the house has any movement. And then once that's done, we're going to close in that 1/4-inch gap on the brick side, on the outside, with a really good quality sealant. We're going to use Dynaflex 920 here. You could also use NP1. We want to use a really good elastomeric sealant. Notice that I'm using a backer rod before I put that sealant on, because we don't want that sealant to adhere to the back of the joint, only to the 2 sides. If we do that, we're going to make sure that sealant can expand and contract without cracking. Guys, this is a really top quality install. I'm really proud of what we've done here. These windows are going to look beautiful for decades to come. I really like Integrity windows in particular because we can custom size down to the 1/16 of an inch. We can get all the dimensions just right and do a really perfect install like you saw here. It only takes 10 days to get those new Integrities, so it's a super fast process once you order those. If you follow these best practices, you're gonna love your Integrity windows for decades to come. Anything more on Integrity, visit their website at integritywindows.com. For more best practice tips or window install tips, you can visit my blog at mattreisinger.com. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.